This is RPMMORadio.
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
A podcast all about roleplay and MMORPGs.
I like what you got. Good job.
With your hosts, Ashen Phoenix, Sid, Jazz, Sibh'Bae, and Kishmas.
Everybody off. We need to go on a quick adventure.
Hello again, role players, to RPMMORadio, episode 43, Epic in Scale. Same joke. That's what she said. I'm gonna just do it again. Of course, I am one of your hosts, Ashen Phoenix, and with me, as always, is the most of us, Jazz, Sib, and the Sibh'Bae.
Hello.
Yes, Kishmas probably won't be here tonight because he is, basically, he's up actually whale fishing in Alaska right now, right this very second. He is on a boat, filming with the Discovery Channel, and hunting whales, believe it or not. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That's what he does. It's that blubber. He's after that ambergris, too.
Way to send PETA after him, bro.
Seriously.
Or like their show Whale Wars, or I like to call it Terrorist Acts on the Sea. But that's just me.
Yeah, no kidding.
There's a reason that show only lasted a couple episodes. It was awful. So, welcome everybody to RPMMORadio, another show which you might think of as awful. We do this every weekend at 7 Central Time on Saturday over at twitch.tv/RPMMORadio. We appreciate everybody that tunes in and follows and likes and subscribes and sends notes from their mother, especially the pictures of your mother when she was younger. That is always appreciated. Just like Paradisochill did. Sorry for completely butchering your name, I'm sure. But it's hard to pronounce, but I appreciate you following us. So Go ahead and do that. If you like to listen to it after the fact on a podcast, of course, you can always go to the usual suspects, iTunes, or no, it's not iTunes. I need to change that. How did that change back? Apple Podcasts, whatever the hell they call it.
You are having some major difficulties tonight.
Yeah, it's just the worst. It's just, I don't know why anybody tunes in, but I'm glad that they do. I mean, I question their standards in audio and entertainment, but, I'm just glad that they have the same ones that apparently we do. So, there's that. Android Podcast, Spotify, and, of course, Podbean, where we host the whole podcast. And, of course, a special thanks to our Patreon donors, especially those at our Raid Boss level, that guy Laza, and the Truth Bob, who, of course, as usual, always rock. If you'd like to support the show, though, at this point, especially if you're listening to it live, I don't know why you would, patreon.com/RPMMORadio. We do appreciate...
Editing is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's... Yeah, so for those that are listening on the podcast, tune in after the show to see what fucked up beforehand, because I'm just going to go ahead and move it to the end so that you can hear, basically a whole lot of nothing. It'll be a lot of...
I can imagine what it sounds like whenever we're all going, hi.
Yeah, because it's just going to be them talking because for some reason it did not let me record.
That's hilarious.
So it's going to be a lot of random highs, and it's going to be like listening to just one side of a conversation with three people and an idiot. So, man.
I'm not going to say that.
Only someone who's not as smart.
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening to what? I wasn't. Sorry, I totally was looking at this. Looking at this bird over here. It's like he's totally not blinking at me. It's really weird, man. So, how's everybody doing? Y'all doing good? You have a good week?
Yeah, I had a pretty busy week, but it wasn't bad.
Doing all right, man.
I had a better week this week than last week. I will say that.
You guys are amazing storytellers.
I mean, I can go into detail.
You didn't ask us what we did. You just asked if we had
right.
good
Well,
weeks.
that was that's like the setup. Like, I had, I don't know, I had the scabies, for the week, and it was great. It felt wonderful, and then it got better.
I don't think scabies are...
Not what happened to me, but I'm just saying as an example. It's an example of, scabies.
So last week I was out of town.
Yeah, how'd that go?
I went to the Astros game last Friday night, where the Rangers and the Astros were playing with my buddy. That was great. It was a fun game.
You suck. That would have been so cool.
And it was pretty
The
good.
pictures were really cool.
Oh, yeah, I sent you a few. Minute Maid Stadium's real pretty. So I dropped him off, drove to Dallas all night, and enough time to go out to my grandma's little thing way out in East Texas, and then drove all the way back. And then somewhere around 10 o'clock Saturday, I passed out and woke up on Sunday, and I was driving back to Houston. It was great.
Yeah, anybody that's never been to Texas, by the way, appreciate everything he just said. Because it's not like where you live, where it's like, oh, I went here, here, and here, and that was a total driving time of 2 or 3 hours. Like, to go from one part of Texas to another, it's so massive, it can literally be like a 10-hour drive.
I watched the sun come up Saturday morning, and I still felt like it was Friday night. It was pretty bizarre over North Texas.
Yeah, that state is friggin' huge. It's ridiculous. So, but no, that's cool, man. Yeah, I like seeing those pictures. I love the one you sent of. Was that a screenshot of the actual show? That, like you were like that you circled your tiny little head behind the umpire there.
Yeah, my friend who went with me, Chandler, he was watching Sports Review, whatever show he's watching, and he saw it. And he stopped the show, clipped it, zoomed in, and he saw me and him sitting there in the seats, and he's like, "Oh my goodness!" And he circled it, sent it to me. Then I sent it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't get to see it because whatever you send to him, I don't get to see.
Well, it's because he sent it to me. If he wanted you to see it, he'd have sent it to you. Him and I are bros.
Forget the fact that I don't have her number, so there you go.
Yeah, there's that. Why don't you give him your digit? Wait, that doesn't sound right.
It totally does not sound right.
Hey, Sibh'Bae, give my wife your phone number.
Maybe.
I like how you said maybe and not
Wait
no.
a minute. This seems vaguely familiar of how I lost the last wife.
Yeah, let's not do that.
This is weird.
No, let's not do that.
All right. So, well, that's pretty cool. Yeah, you had definitely the more exciting time away than I think any of us did. I just worked. And it was pretty.
When I did get back, I
garbage.
reviewed the show, and I really wish I would have made it that because that was a good episode.
Yeah, you know what?
It was.
No, you have some because you are, for lack of a better term, you are a religious correspondent out in the field talking all things God. Okay, not really, but you are the little bit more religious. Do you have any before we hit to today's show and what we're doing in Roleplay? Do you have any like things you wanted to say about it?
I'll save it for an episode when we get back to something like that or vaguely close because that's a whole other topic. I don't want to bleed into this one, but it was good.
Yeah, you like it? It was good.
I think
it was really good. I listened to.
If I was there and Sibh'Bae would have been there, we could have added another.
It would have
side of that, and it could have been a more interesting conversation.
Oh, ow. Oh, you guys hear that? More interesting conversation. No, you're actually right. Just because, that's why I want more people. It's just more thoughts and opinions. It's literally, that's why there's everybody else here except for But yeah, we already had that scheduled, and since we had a guest, and I mean, come on, it was episode 42. I couldn't pass that up for the title.
No, it was good.
There's just that the title alone was like, I can't reschedule this. No, there's just no way. It's a little silly, but so with that, what have we been doing in Roleplay this week? Jazz.
You're not even pretending anymore.
We're drawing straws.
Okay, hold on. Okay. You got
I got the straws. Here you go, Ashton.
Okay, hold on. Let me. Oh, this one says Jazz on it.
Oh, okay. So she
that
goes
is
first.
so weird. What's weird is none of. Hold on, let me pick another one. Yeah, this one says Jazz on it too.
Oh, amazing!
In fact, I think they all say Jazz goes first on what have you been doing in Roleplay.
That was not meant to be Jazz.
Oh, you.
He changed out the straws.
Yeah.
It's almost tradition at this point.
Yes, at this point, I'd say yeah.
I don't know what.
So let's see. Sunday was really dull. Nobody was at the tea house, so they were all kind of talking about babies and stuff, and Sully noped out of there. So she wasn't staying for that. So I went and worked on my new character and kind of putted around on him for a little while, and then I went to bed. Tuesday was poetry night, which was fun. Who was there? Oh yes, it was Sia went and talked to Trithalis and had her confession with him about her big dark secret, and that was fun to do. She's going around confessing to people. She's still got to find Nex and talk to him. So that'll be interesting. And, yes, dun, dun, dun. And then there was some light RP on Wednesday. Thursday was Guild RP. It was a really light week. I really didn't do any like monumental RP other than advancing Sia, the Sia J Trithalis storyline that we're still working on has advanced somewhat. So that was fun. And that was about it.
Yay! So since you were gone last week, how about you, Sibh'Bae? Anything go on this week?
Yeah, so I got back into roleplay. Hang on.
Caught him by surprise.
Right. Nobody expects the Roleplay Inquisition. What did I catch him doing? Oh, dear God.
You caught me killing Gurks in Star Wars Galaxies.
Man, you Gurk. You know what, Sibh'Bae? I don't care what they say about you. You look strong enough to pull the ears off a Gundark.
Oh.
Fine, Gundark.
She doesn't know that's actually not an insult. It's a direct quote from the movie.
But
I didn't know it either.
Star Wars.
Okay, so
It's from
I knew
Star
it was from
Wars.
Star Wars, but I didn't know it was a direct quote.
roleplay. So this week I got back into it. Tuesday night was poetry night. It was good. We had a full house. Normally Traff will give the first opening poem, and then he turns the floor loose. So this time, someone else went first, and it's never stopped. I don't think Traff even gave poem this time. It was good, though. We had a lot of people showing up, interacting with each other after the fact. I think Monday night, my tune met up with Sibby's tune.
Mm-hmm.
Discussed the whole, what was going on when he was away, and his twin was there acting the fool. And that was good. They got a little closer. And then I think Tuesday night, after all the poetry ended, they got even closer.
Mm-hmm.
AKA, Traff was macking on or necking with Volley.
My darling,
It was good. It was good role play. Nothing. It was all PG-13. Nothing that great, but it was good.
Yeah, that's cool.
honestly, I sometimes think that's better. You don't get caught up in all the other stuff, and you just have fun.
Yeah, and they were just honestly talking to each other, getting to know each other. One thing led to the other. It was natural. It was good.
Yeah.
Thursday night, showed up with Trav, watched Ericus dance around the stage doing his thing. He's really talented at good stuff.
Is.
And someone interacted with a few people, continued the storyline with one of Joris's tunes because he keeps neglecting to come by so Trav can try to fix his short-term memory. That's a whole other ball of wax. I then switched off and got into Trajan. And apparently he may be related to his old Cursed Imperial. That kind of progressed into a way, and he was excited about it. I thought it was kind of cool. So
That is cool.
It was a busy week. Since I was away most of the time, I was trying to catch up.
Yeah. Well, I know Sib didn't have anything going on, so we'll move on to me. Oh, wait, no, I guess she had a few things. What happened, Sib?
You could go first. I don't mind.
I don't know. Do you want me to go first? You want me to go?
You guys are so cute.
You want me to go first right now? Right now?
I gotta interject. Aren't we supposed to do it on a story mode like you did last week? Or...
Yeah, we're supposed to. Let's wait till we actually have it.
You don't have to do it, but you can try. I mean, or if you've got something worth telling in a story form, like Jazz says, she didn't really have, as Seal sat there and listened to people talk about babies, she grew remarkably uncomfortable, realized things pop out of her vagina if they have kids, and then decided to leave.
That was Sully, not Seal.
That wasn't Seal. That was Sully. And yes,
whatever.
That was really kind of what happened. Seal. Now you got me doing it. Sully. Yeah, she was just like sitting there listening, going, I don't think I can take another second of this. And she just
That whole
out.
baby thing sounds awful. Let's
You're
not.
like, have you ever thought about getting pregnant? She was like, every time I take my potions.
Yeah.
Have a nice night. To make sure it never happens.
Yeah,
Behold, the coat hanger of truth.
We'll try the story mode next week.
Oh.
What?
Ouch. That was pretty rough.
Oh my
Is that rough?
God.
Is that
Ashen. Really?
what?
Oh my God.
No.
I was just saying
Okay.
it's
Also
for...
known as Ye Old Abortion Clinic from back in the day.
Oh, I was
You
talking
guys
about.
are
I was just
both
talking about a. What? I thought that's what you put your robes on after the end of the tea house. Cup fingers. I don't know.
Yeah, nice
man,
what do you guys? You guys take it to a dark place. You guys.
So
are you sure you're not part of the DC universe?
Dark.
As for your story mode, RP, we'll try it next week. I have a story to tell that kind of that advances that evil twin stuff.
Cool.
Oh yeah.
So this week, but I'll save it for that and try to construct it into a better story.
Yeah.
That sounds cool.
So what do you have, Sib?
I have to say, Raharnar said, I mean, just have Jazz go again. So, but no, I'll go. Let's see. Last week, I was pretty much sick all week. And Saturday, of course, I wasn't here because I was sick. And I didn't really go into game Sunday night at all. I think I went to ordinator training Monday, but I didn't. Did I? Yeah, I did. And then I switched over from ordinator training to RP Witchwrath. And like he said, our storyline is kind of advancing, and Voli is my orc, and she pretty much told him, you know, what happened when his brother was there, and she asked him if, you know, they were going to go hunt him, and he's like, in good time, you know, patience. And so she pretty much basically told him that he was hers at this point, and that was that.
In true orc fashion.
Yeah.
And I will eat anyone that looks at you funny.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much that he was hers, her Trath. So, and that was fun. And so it's really kind of evolving, and it's just nice. And
Fun fact, I immediately thought of that crazy girl from Wedding Crashes of "Don't ever leave, cause I'll find you," and I was like, "Oh Lord!"
I made that comment when we were RPing out, which I thought was so funny. So Tuesday was poetry night, and there was a lot of people. I mean, the house Trath's Manor is 12 people, and I think we were knocking at the max on that. I don't think we could have had anybody else come in. And like he said, everybody got up, and it seemed like everyone got up and did something. Even we had some new people I've never seen before that actually went up and, you know, did a poem or did a reading of some sort, which was a lot of fun. And normally Trath will have somebody go around and serve wine and cheese, like samplings. And he didn't even get to do that because everyone had, you know, something to say or do, which was a lot of fun. And then Wednesday, I can't remember. Oh, what I did Wednesday. I'm drawing a blank, but I'm sure it'll come back to me. Thursday, I did Guild Night, which was fun. I came on one of my off characters, Jen, who's a Nord, and she's kind of like I don't know how many people of you guys watch Firefly, but she's kind of like an Anara character. She's a companion. She's very low-key, you know, just kind of hangs around, talks to people, and is just there.
She's also a babe of a Nord, just saying.
Yeah, she is. She really is. It's fun to watch guys hit on her.
It can be challenging, but she's not. I mean, she tells him flat out, no, I'm not interested in anything. I'm, you know, but it's fun to play her because she's so, all she wants to do is talk to people. And that's how I play her. She will sit down and talk to you and just talk and talk and let you talk and talk and talk. So it's fun to play her because I get to meet people. I get to learn about people's backstories. And so did that. And then after that, Thursday night, I had some drama on my Dunmere 9th in the servants. We went over there, or I went over there to RP with my friend Tervis, which I told him I would say happy birthday to. He had a birthday last weekend. And anyway, I went over to RP with him because he doesn't get to get on very often. He's in Australia, and we have a hard time getting the times where we can RP together. So I went over there because he was going to be able to be on. And he has an issue with one of the other ordinators, and because they had hurt my character. So I'll try to make this short. Regier.
I feel a white knighting coming on. Go ahead. Yeah,
Kishmas Regier, the commander of the ordinators, pretty much got it all up in Tervis's mix, and there was a huge blowout, and they pretty much transferred me and him out of the Abbey and sent us in totally different directions. So,
why?
Yeah, so it's a huge storyline. I mean, it's going to be, I don't know what's going to happen. I know it was very intense, and I will say it was one of those times I was super tired because it was like, I think 12:30. I didn't get in bed till like 1 o'clock that night, and I was so tired, and I was just like, I've got to end this because I've got to go to bed. And I will say, RPing tired, yes, I might have made some decisions I wouldn't have made normally, but it happened. So it's fun. It's all fun because, like I said, it's going to be fun to see how it all turns out.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing that can't be straightened out. But yeah, I think everybody kind of admitted on that one. We were all a little tired.
Yeah.
And things maybe blew out of proportion. And if it had happened at 9 as opposed to 12:30, would not have happened in that manner.
Yeah, and I know my character is a hard head. She will take, and like another character was taking lashings for something he did, and they made it out like he did it maliciously. Well, she did not believe he did it maliciously, so she took lashings with him, kind of to show her solidarity with her ordinators. And Malel and Tervis are both that she's done all her like mystery trials and mastery trials with, so she's got a special connection to those two. And not to mention my character is in a relationship with Tervis's character in game, so she's not going to stand there because he kept telling her to be quiet, and Raj kept telling her, if this is not, you don't need to be in on this, and she's like, it's gone too far, and I just couldn't back out at that point. So
yeah.
But it's fun. It was a lot of drama, and it's fun drama.
Drama llama.
So we'll just have to see we'll have to see where it goes right now. I have no clue, honestly. And then last night I actually have a new character going into the Abbey, a Dunmere, and she's going into the clergy. So I got to roleplay her in last night, and I'm going to see what happens. I don't know how much I'll get to play her. I'll just see. But that's mine. Kind of went long, didn't it? Sorry.
No, you're right. You had a... Sorry, I took an allergy pill beforehand, and man, oddly enough, it's made my throat itch.
I did forget one thing.
What's that? Go ahead.
My soon-to-be one tune in the Servants robbed one of your other applicants the other night.
Yes.
Which is Jazz's tune that's going in there.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping they both get in at the same time. He's going to show up in chains.
It's going to be
bandit.
fun.
And,
that will be fun. Yes, you guys.
It's a straight-laced noble with a freaking noble that turned bandit. It should be entertaining.
And I used the story from that role play in my application. So, and I sent it to Strafe so he could read it. So.
Yeah. So let's see here. I had an event that I ran, continuing the menace thing and the gargoyles and stuff like that. Again, as usual, Tarvala started the, what do they call it? The briefing, but I don't participate because having my character there, as I say before, it's hard not to god mod yourself, no matter how good you are.
Yeah, it is.
And even if you don't, I don't like doing it just because I always feel like I am, and I don't want to, I can't have her running it because then everybody's looking to me and I know all the answers, so it's kind of stupid. So she gathered all the ordinators up in the top of the Abbey and went over the briefing. The previous gargoyle that they had fought, which they only knew as the Menace, and turned out that it was actually a gargoyle, they had retrieved after the fight. That was the one where it took Commander Roger and lifted off with him. And they fought it in an old ruin and managed to defeat it this time instead of having it fly off on its own. But they did realize it was a gargoyle at Shadastula, but gargoyles aren't really native to the country of Morrowind. There's a few here and there, but they really wanted for comparison, an actual live gargoyles, which meant that, of course, the Ordination had to try and find, which is difficult because they are rather rare creatures, and then in lore, not in the game mechanics. Let's make that clear.
Yeah, there's a little difference in
right,
that. Yeah.
and lore-wise, they're supposed to be rare. And then capture it alive so that they could
and they're
see.
very large, very strong, and very angry. Have fun with that.
Very stony, yeah. They're not actually made of stone, which is something that there's not actually a lot of lore on gargoyles. Just in Elder Scrolls in general, there's very, very little of like what they are supposed to be. So I kind of have to make it up as I go along based off what little, like one paragraph on a Wikipedia page across 5 games,
Yeah.
you know. So she did her debriefing, told them everything that they needed to do, and it was kind of it's kind of give and take. Shadowstula is not exactly related to the temple, but of course they are a Dunmer Academy of Wizardry. So part of their payment, of course, for doing this, other than the fact that with wizards, all you have to do is be like, here's a challenge that you can't explain, try to explain it. But getting a live gargoyle to observe, test, and eventually autopsy and dissect was somewhat of the payment for helping the ordinators.
Right.
And as they sat around the table, they went over all the ideas in order to catch them. And this, of course, took about 30 or 40 minutes of the entirety of the thing, which was interesting. They came up with everything from fishing nets to a freeze bomb to hitting it with dispel magic and paralysis magic, trying maybe if there's something nearby that's loose, collapsing it down on top of it, basically just having to beat it into submission without destroying it and maiming it and killing it too far. So they went down to Black Marsh, just south of Morrowind territory. It was the closest they could get. It was kind of, they do have a pact with them right now, so it's not technically trespassing. But again, they're all filthy Argonians, so nobody really gives a shit what they think if they're on their lands. But they went to an old Ayleid ruin, where there was rumored to be one in there, and the entirety of the Ordination went there while Tarvala went off to Shadowstula after giving the commander of this raid, Dravis, a one side of a two-way scroll, which basically was a magic. The way the scrolls work, it's magic placed onto the scroll, and it basically was a teleportation scroll that would instantly link to the secondary scroll, which of course was going to be in the middle of a giant steel and warded cage in Shadowstula's basement and laboratories. So when they finally got the gargoyle unconscious, they could slap this other scroll on him, say the words, and it would slowly teleport him through a portal to the other side. That was the plan, and as they went through the ruins, they fairly quickly, after just finding one trap or so, it was very easy to spot because of all the pierced skeletons right underneath the trap. fairly obvious. Right. But he was actually just around the corner, and basically, due to their planning, it went off without a single scratch upon any of the Ordinators, which there was probably 10 or 12 of them. But they threw the net over it as it started to wake up, its stone skin cracking and grinding as it tried to become mobile again. And they blasted it with a multitude of spells over and over. The Magistrix Sibh'Bae and several of her clergy were there as well, creating wards around those fighting and runes and glyphs to deter it from getting near them. And as it got more and more angry, because it just was taking a pelting, in one last desperate bid to go for the main group, because if it could get in the middle of all these Ordinators, it basically is close combat at that point, and it would just shred them apart. Unfortunately for it actually succeeded in doing this. You know, it hunkered down, it got ready to jump, and it leaped straight for and just smacked right headlong into that ward and all those ruins, and it basically knocked itself the fuck out.
Yay!
Bleeding from the nose and everything like that. Also, it didn't help that I rolled a 9 and 2 1s for the gargoyle, so we're going to go with the fact that their pre-planning helped destroy it. not the fact that it can roll for shit. But after that, of course, they slapped a scroll on it. It teleported away. On the other end, Tarvala was doing her work with the Wizards of Shadastula, making sure the wards in the cage were ready, which they were. And then the teleport spell activated. The gargoyle slowly appeared there, and ever since then, they've been doing experiments and studies on a living gargoyle in captivity for, until they learn all they can, and then, of course, they'll take it apart piece by piece, because that's what Dunmer do.
Yes.
But that was pretty much the event I had. I kind of had a slow week beyond that. I did the ordinator training and a few other things, but that was the big one. Mostly I did it just because a lot of the times, we go into role play, it's like kill, 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 kill. So I thought it'd be neat to try to capture something alive, and it just so happened it was super easy. Again, 2 1s and a 9. That chat bot or that robot in Discord hates me. Hates me.
No, it's mutual. It hates me too.
Yeah,
so.
it's just the worst. So that was what I did in roleplay. And let's see here. So with that, before we hit our main topic, let's go ahead and hear a word from our sponsors. This episode of RPMMORadio is brought to you by Epic Fantasy Wars action figures. Now you too can react your favorite moments in the hit Saturday morning cartoon show Epic Fantasy Wars. Play as the hero He-Guy, the masculine, as he fights repeatedly the evil and cliche antics of Skeleguy, the muscled skeleton, in their ongoing fight for the power eternal. And of course, what would be complete without He-Guy's cast of equally large-chested figures like Princess Dee and her flying one-eyed unicorn partner, Eudaclops, along with their wacky sidekick, halfling wizard Twinkle Toes the Frightened, who could end the entire conflict if only he found his courage. Be sure to stop by your local Toys R Us store today and pick up these action figures and many other of your favorite toys and many, many overpriced accessories. After all, the entire point of the show is to make you buy the toys. Epic Fantasy Wars action figures. Put the legend sword of power in your hands. Yeah, well, I love that cartoon.
Just going to say, I had all those.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, that sounded awfully familiar.
Them all. Snake Mountain and everything.
Anything related to reality, imagined or on purpose, is completely accidental.
Good to know.
Yes. That was based on no real shows made by Hanna-Barbera in the late 80s. Or early 80s. Or early 80s. Yeah. Nope, nothing like that. Or was it Mattel? Mattel. It was Mattel. Yeah. Not based on anything by Mattel. At all.
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all.
So, this topic actually comes from, we asked if there's anything anyone wanted to hear us talk about this week because we tried to talk about it after the show, got sidetracked, and then completely forgot to pick something. I realized that after we got done. I was like, oh, we didn't pick something to do.
No, we didn't. We got all sidetracked.
I do have a good story for the topic. It goes back to pre-EQ1 beta, but we'll save it for the topic.
Okay. Yeah, and it's the Great Whoopadini, who you might remember was one of our last callers on the last show, suggested basically massive RP events. Those things, just multi-guild, community-wide roleplay events that occur. They are extremely rare for reasons we'll go over. A lot of it's not because of just the drama and things like that. That can be part of it, but honestly, it's just that it's a fucking logistical nightmare, and it takes a lot of energy, a lot of time, which we're going to get into. So thank you, Great Whoopdini, for the topic idea. If there's anybody else that ever has one, feel free to let us know. We write them all down, and
yep.
Except for the ERP one, we already know it's coming up. I will say it's in the near future.
Yeah, although we may have to move that back to a different episode because we'll worry about that.
Yeah, but
So,
just don't worry if you drop that one in as a
ERP
suggestion.
will eventually come along.
Yeah, it's coming along.
So, yeah, and of course we are a call-in show, which I need to remember. If you aren't part of our Discord, go to rpmmoradio.com/Discord, join our Discord server, throw yourself in the caller waiting room. If you've got stories from other, like we know the Ashlander War, we know back in EQ2 it was I think it was, Jazz, was it War of Two Cities? Is that what it's kind of like about?
I forget what it was called.
I forget what it was called, but that's basically, it was the open war between Freeport and Kino. So it's the war between two cities is what I'm renaming it, because that's all I can think of that makes sense. I would say Two Towers, but again, not slightly copywritten. Also, there were no towers.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you have anything from, like, I know there's some in Final Fantasy. I had a whole list of them here. Final Fantasy and things like that, where these big epic scale events took place. We'd love to hear the stories of them. So if you want to tell that, we only, of course, know the ones that we partook in and partaked. Is that a better word?
No, partook is okay. It's just not one you usually hear.
Partook. Yeah.
A better word would be participate.
I like partook.
Partook.
So,
it's fun to say.
It is fun, like Beracuda. So, massive RP events. Like I said, they're massive multi-guild RP events. They're rare because of, it's awesome, the logistics, the coordination. You have to have a story worthy of such a thing that many people can also get behind. And hardest of all is getting everyone to agree on the same thing. And that usually ends up being the real sticking point. It's why some guilds end up getting left out just because they don't want to be part of it or this or that. But really, just even if you've got a great tight-knit community, just the logistics of getting sometimes just getting your own guild role play together can be a nightmare. But when you've got 100 people all wanting to do the same thing and participate, and especially if there's combat, whoo boy, oh, it makes my head hurt just thinking about it. So let's see here. I want to go over just a few things. I asked the chat during the week because, like I said, I knew of a few, like the Ashlander War in ESO. That's one we've brought up, and we actually had like Gangsy Girl who called in and told us about that. I've still hear about that one every now and again. There was the war between the cities back in EverQuest 2 time, which we can all talk about. No, not Sib, but Strafea, you were there for that one, weren't you, at the time? I think you were around by then. Or was that before your time? Yeah.
Yeah, I was around for some of that.
Okay.
I was on the Kino side.
Yeah, I think I was going to say you were still on the good guy side.
I think he missed the first one, but the second one he was a part of when we had Uros and everything there.
Yeah.
So I think that one he was there for.
Yeah, and then let's see. In ESO, aside from the Ashlander War, which is the big one I've always heard of, there was also... and that had like a lot of battles and skirmishes, obviously, between like the Ordinators and the Tribunal and the Ashlanders, obviously the Ashlander War. Apparently there was also the Hist Civil War. I don't have a lot of details on that, but I would assume it was probably a disagreement between different histories or something like that, based off of some of the knowledge I have. Some of the trees, like they're a hive mind, and some of them apparently can go rogue. So could have been that,
That's
or maybe
an interesting image.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bunch of trees just trying to uproot each other and attack, or a bunch of lizard Argonians. Anyway, there was a Reachman attacks again, and then there was a pact invasion of Canarthy's Roost, which apparently was like 10 guilds and over 2 separate factions, all fighting. Canarthy's Roost is a zone in ESO for those that don't play ESO. So that was a big 10 guilds. That's quite a bit. Usually they don't get up even to that high, unless it's a bunch of smaller ones. Then there was, back in EQ1, one Yudfei brought up, was in Nectulos Forest between Fironi V and Lanus Tavil, which actually took, if I remember, I think I kind of remember this one a little bit, because I played EQ2, and it was...
Lanus Tavex, yeah, she was a great Dark Elf.
Yeah. And Yeah, it was between, two characters, but there was also a whole bunch. The players were all around it too and participating as well. Some of these are back in the day when developers actually gave a shit about communities
seriously.
and would actually come in as main characters and make it lore and what happened.
They haunted the zone forever after that. It was crazy.
Yeah, and even in EQ2, you would see her later on. If I remember right, there was you can make her spawn somehow during there. In Star Wars Galaxies back in the day, Sibh'Bae, not so far back in the day for him maybe.
Yes.
There was the Fall of the Renpire, which, like I said, apparently in this one, Darth Vader took place in it. Like a dev got on and played as Darth Vader in the game. And they were attacking a player city from a guy named, it was Ren. It was called his Renpire, which was a player city. And so that there was the faction defending it, and then all the players were attacking it, which is probably a PvP thing still, but I'm still counting it because the fact that you get a dev to play Darth Vader and fucking wreck people.
That's awesome.
That's pretty cool, Here's a game I hadn't even thought of in forever. I forget who brought this up. I think it may have been Sibh'Bae or it was Yunfei again. I can't remember. Tabula Rasa. Who remembers that game?
I remember that game. I never played it, but I remember it.
I remember it because it was based off the author, I think, of that. I think it's a book series, was heavily invested in that. It's shut down now. But they had a large festival for remembering Earth. And that actually got dev support as well, and it's just I just love that the devs used to do stuff like that. It's really sad.
I really am looking forward to a game someday that participates that way.
That invests,
again.
even if it's not like the developers, that they have a team of people that will actually come on and play.
Right.
What I remember, this was SWG since you brought it up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Vader showed up in Theed and was like literally preaching the merits of the Empire, and I think a dev had taken control of him, but everybody thought he was an NPC. So these rebels ran up and slapped him. Freaking Vader ignited the saber and started wiping the floor with anybody in Theed, even Imperials, anybody around him. Vader was killing everyone. I was like, oh my goodness, should have fly out of Theed as fast as I could on my speeder, but it was impressive.
Yeah, see, and that stuff like that
kind
is
of
cool.
stuff, that is what they need to be doing. Interaction with people like that is just huge.
I know that's not like the topic, but just remembering that, I can't remember the last time I saw something like somebody official from, playing a main character. It was
terrifying. Yeah. It was Vader. It was, oh man.
Yeah, that was...
So I do have one that goes back to pre-EQ1.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, no.
So my buddy beta tested it. His name's Sean. I went to high school with him when I was stuck in Florida for a while. And he said right before, like a couple days before they closed beta to do live EQ1, every Dark Elf on the server did an invasion of Fadar. Like every Dark Elf on the server. Like I think it lagged the beta server down. They made it in steamrolled through Butcher Block, and they got to Greater Fey, and it was pandemonium.
That's awesome.
And it was all players.
I think I actually remember that. I may have actually participated in that, if I remember right. Because they did it across multiple servers, didn't they?
Well, it was the beta before.
Okay, no, then never mind. Yeah, because I remember something like that in the actual live game too, but maybe they just redid it. Yeah.
But this was, everybody had to wait on the boat. One of the boats apparently vanished and dropped like a whole boatload of Dark Elves.
Oh yeah,
it was crazy. And if anybody out there participated in that beta EQ1 invasion of Fadar, please come to the show. We'd love to hear it.
Oh yeah, that'd be so cool, man.
So it was War of the Fae before EQ2.
Before the War of the Fae,
yeah, seriously. Another one, I know Sibh'Bae had actually done this. She apparently ran in Star Wars Galaxies an event called Shadows of Talos, which is Talos was a planet. And then there was from Final Fantasy XIV, this was from the listener Oaken. He had 3, which apparently somebody did a month-long Blitzball tourney, which is, since Blitzball's not in the game, it's been teased since the last expansion, and before that, and yet still nothing in there, which I think would be one of the few games that they place in there, unlike Lords of Verminion, that would actually be fun, because Blitzball was kind of cool in Final Fantasy X. So the fact that somebody came up with a rule set to play blitzball tournaments for a month, that's pretty wicked. There was a war that tracked along with the MSQ, which is cool, to actually just kind of go along the plot line of, everybody may have finished the MSQ, but then do a multi-guild role play because there's lots of wars and things like that. That'd be kind of a neat thing to do. That's actually a pretty cool concept. Obviously I don't think everybody involved is playing as the main character, but, playing off what's going from the MSQ is like you're playing off of it in the wars in the background. That's a pretty cool concept. I like that. And then there was something with a mystery cult. That was all you could remember.
Mystery cult?
Yeah, something with it said something with a mystery cult. So I'm just putting it in there. For those of it Final Fantasy 14 players that role play, you might remember that. So with that, let's go ahead and real quick and hit our call lines where we have Rahanar waiting on the line. Hey, Rahanar, how's it going?
Hey, buddy.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going pretty good.
Going good. So what do you got, Rahanar?
Well, actually, I just wanted to elaborate a little bit on the fall of the Renpire, because I was actually present for that.
Oh, cool. Yeah, let's hear it.
I wasn't a huge part of it, but I was.
You were the key person. Don't let anyone
Bro,
else...
No, not at all.
Total respect if you're an SWG player from back in the day. High five.
No, don't let...
Yeah, don't let.
You're good enough. You're smart enough.
One of the first Master Commando Master Squad leaders, which were terrible back in the day.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. That is right.
No, but so the fall of the Renpire was actually, I can't remember the name of the guild. I was in her guild, but it was run by a character named Navarra Ren. She was the leader of, I guess the guild was the Renpire, but I can't remember now.
I found a thread on it, and I got the guy's name, which was something Ren. So I don't know if they called it the Renpire or if that was just the thing for it. But yeah,
it was a girl. She played a Twi'lek, and she was the leader of the guild that did this. But they had a city that I was a part of on Rory, and the city got actually so big, and she was so big in the community that essentially the plot was that she got the attention of the Emperor, of Vader and the Emperor, and she started this big guild event where the Imperials were going to come and basically destroy the city. And the devs actually, I don't know if they created an NPC for her or if they just modified her character details, but the objective, it was sort of a PvP event, where they actually gave her, it was something like 3 million hit points, and then on the other side was just Vader, and essentially it was a giant war between who could kill the other leader first.
Okay. Yeah. That makes
sense. It had so many people on Rory at the time that you literally could not move your character. The lag was so bad that you would rubber band almost immediately.
Yeah, and this was back in the days, I think, like, DSL lines and stuff were barely a thing.
Oh, yeah, this was I want to say it was like 2004 or 2005.
It had to have been around that time, because I think it came out in about 2000. Oof, man, now I can't remember.
It would have to be, because 2005 is when I started playing ET2.
Yeah, I think it was like 2001, 2002.
Yeah, it would have been out for quite a while.
Yeah. But still, 56K was like that was the thing.
And it did crash the server, like the entire server. It was the Eclipse server. And the entire server went down for about 3 hours.
You know it's a good event. Totally.
Just going to give a shout out to Gorath and Starsider. Just saying.
And then what eventually happened is that she lost, but she also lost because not only was Vader actually on the battlefield, they put in, there's a whole bunch of AT-STs, and then there were also a bunch of AT-ATs, which weren't actually in the game, and they didn't have a model that worked. So you had these AT-ATs just kind of sitting there and destroying people without moving or actually doing anything. They were just
awesome.
Nice.
So yeah, it was a very, very interesting event. It was a very big event, and I was actually I was one of the guards for Navarra Ren, and I kind of just sat there and used my flamethrower because that's all I had at the time. So, but yeah, it was a huge event, and it makes me really sad because you can't find anything about Star Wars Galaxies anymore. Like the forums are gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you had told me this, I actually looked up, Googled it too, and I think I found the exact same post you did, which was a thread on how they were having to postpone it, and no other details. I couldn't find anything else either. I even went to deep into 10 and 20 pages of Google, which gets a little weird.
Yeah, you can really start getting some interesting searches.
Yeah, it's like this has nothing to do with anything related.
I will say, SWGEMU has saved a lot of the old information, so I might dig around the forums there.
Yeah.
Well, I know that. So, like I said, the event was run by Navarra Ren. It's N''VARRA, and then Ren is WREN, and she was the guild leader, and her husband was, at least her in-game husband was Gonzalez, right? Gonz.
Gonzalez. I like that. Gonzalez.
So I mean, if you're able to find any information about them, they were really cool people. And the ending of the event was we actually tore down the entire city on Rory and started to rebuild, but that was before the combat upgrade and the new game experience.
That of which we do not speak.
Yeah. And I think basically at that point, when the NGE hit, everybody just
that's
there was a great disturbance in the force. It was called the NGE. Thousands of voices cried out in terror. They were silenced.
And they all canceled their accounts.
Yep.
Pretty much. So yeah, I want to say there were just tens of thousands of people there. I mean, it was insane.
Yeah, you would have to have thousands of people in order to. I mean, even back then, just to crash the server. But that's no. I appreciate you calling in and letting us know some actual details because, like I said, I couldn't find jack squat other than I think the Darth Vader thing I actually got from you. So that was the forum.
Yeah, it was originally supposed to be Boba Fett, I guess, but no, it actually ended up being Vader.
They went.
Dev took control and.
Yeah, went full Sith Lord. No, that's cool. I appreciate you.
That is cool.
Appreciate you telling the story, Rohanar.
You're the man, Ron.
No problem.
All right. You have a good night, bud. Thank you for calling. So, man, that's cool. Like I said, it's really is a shame that devs don't do more shit like that anymore.
They really
is. Even EQ2, this one isn't actually on here, but what was that festival? And they would do on Antonio Bale, and the devs would give, the players that were doing it, they gave them certain powers that they could actually put stuff down in the real world, or they did it for them, and then when the server reboot, did their thing, and then
away.
Right, and then it would go away. But they actually helped out with that, in a very basic way.
I thought that, even though it wasn't much, that was a lot more than a lot of devs are willing to do. So I really enjoyed that, even though it wasn't really a role play event. But we made it into a role play event, but it started as a role play event and then kind of turned into an all game event, which was still made it a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Two other things that happened in Galaxies back in the day. We had a dev show up to our city. Apparently we had done something bad to some rebels, and he showed up to try to straighten it out. Our mayor city banned him and made him attackable, and then we killed the dev, which brought all kinds of chaos onto our city. But that inspired a rebellion, or I should say a rebel guild that kept trying to invade us. We had set up this is when you could still stack houses next to each other and make a wall.
Oh, yeah.
And so we had built a giant rectangle where our Imperial base was. And we had a rebel base in there so we could grind faction for free. Well, we lured them in because we all hid in the Imperial base, and they all ran in there, and the mayor has hid out in his house. As soon as the rebels ran in, this is right after that mess, he dropped in 2 more houses in the open spot, sealing all the rebels in, and then we all pulled our ATSTs out from behind another building. It was a massacre. And we had some massive hate in that server for a while for it.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah,
shortly after that, houses could no longer stack.
I was gonna say there's probably a few rule changes. I think I remember that. Like they made the, like I didn't know about that. I wasn't on that server, but I do remember when houses couldn't be like right next to each other, and there was always a gap between them from there on out.
We definitely made the rebels say it's a trap, and it was.
Yeah, it's a trap. Concentrate all fire.
I mean, it's cool when you can interact with the devs, and in that case, you could kill a dev, and you could. I mean, but it brought all kinds of grief to us. But
yeah,
you could do it.
Worth it. So doing massive roleplay. Where do you start at? I think first and foremost, you actually have to have something that you can't really control as one guild or an individual, and that's to have a solid roleplay community that's actually able to work together and healthy, and is in a community that's like based in poison and backstabbing and people, guild leaders that you could trust. And there are a few communities that are early on in EverQuest 2. We were able to do that.
Yes, we were. We had Paladin Mortis pulled the whole community together. You remember several times.
Yeah,
we had several big events. So
because he had enough clout and respect from the community, because he was a solid guy. Say what you will about his character, but him as a player was a solid guy.
Oh yeah.
And there's a few other, like I've heard the oh fuck, I just totally forgot the one that's based in real world right now, Secret World. Their community is very tight knit, apparently very close, and I've heard that they actually do some pretty massive roleplay events. We don't have a lot of listeners apparently from there yet. I need to try to reach out to them a little bit more because they have a very solid roleplay community. I'm not crazy about the game myself, but I still love the concept, and I'm glad that they have a lot of really cool roleplay there. But you have to, if you can't trust the people involved, if there's, like, well, how so-and-so is, they'll just make it all about themselves, that kind of thing. You kind of start out from an ugly place. You have to have solid, like, I hate to say community leaders, but there are typically people that shine in a community, people that either better or worse have a reputation. Some people have a great reputation, some people don't, and some people it's not deserved, and they're just kind of in the middle, and there's all sorts of role play politics and behind the scenes. But if your community is not already solid and healthy and able to trust one another, not to be backstabbing high school bitches, I mean,
don't hide your feelings, just let it out.
Right. I mean, that's basically what it comes down to. Well, if they're tell you one thing and then do another, then and there's people like that. The people that want to make their guild and characters always win and this and that, and they can't take a loss. Because we're the best of the best. So you have to have a strong roleplay community first and foremost. I mean, there's just no way around that. There does also have to be a story and a reason for the conflict, or or a celebration even. If you're gonna do not all of it has to be a giant war or conflict roleplay, although that tends to be the ones that bring more people in than the celebration. Celebration stuff is fun, and it can also bring a community together. But
they're easier to form and deal with, whereas I know, like, I would say I haven't really had a lot of experience with this at all, so I don't really have a lot of input on this topic, but I will say it seems like gatherings like balls or festivals, celebrations would be easier to put together, because you don't have, like, where you do war events, you would have conflict. You might have people, the look at me's, you have, you're going to have several heads of guilds get in there and agree on this, how this is going to play out. So I could understand how there's a huge difference between those two.
It's herding cats.
Yeah.
It is.
It's really not a whole lot different than raiding in the sense of that, but
herding
obviously
cats that have all been high on catnip when there's cans of tuna hidden around
Yes.
the area.
Yes.
Role players are
much
cats
no.
confirmed.
And the minute one person gets butthurt, the butthurt spreads, and it gets worse.
It's like a virus. It's like those red maps in any like plague movie where it starts out in a major city and slowly spreads across the globe.
Yeah, the
Butthurt
butthurt just kind of spreads, and people pick sides, and yeah.
Yeah, and it unfortunately that is inevitable because when you do it with that many people, I mean, there's, I mean, them in a guild even, every guild has a couple of those people. It's just personalities of people, and they may not even know they're doing it, but when it really shines is when one person could almost, like, what was the one in EverQuest 2, there was a thing, the characters were trying to prevent one side from getting into a tower. And they were literally, and they had enough players to actually do this physically. They were literally shoulder to shoulder, and they were casting wards and this and that. And then one person, an assassin or whatever, can go invisible. Went invisible and like I stealth past the line and grabbed it and, and then ran off with it. And it basically derailed the entire thing from there on out because one person didn't want to follow the rules that were set in advance, that there was supposed to be a fight, that there was supposed to be tactics and this and that involved, and and of course the side he was on went, unfortunately, instead of slapping him and saying, get your bitch ass out of here, you didn't do that. They went along with it.
Takes one dirthead, man.
Yeah. Well, and then they went along with it. Like, well, he got it. He said he did. You didn't see him, so that makes it okay. It's like, well, you're using game mechanics against roleplay, and you can't do that necessarily.
No.
So it
Not
just takes
when there's that
one
many
person
words,
like that.
and it was just, I remember that and how cheesed off everyone was when that happened, because even if it is possible, you're still just screwing up the whole thing by doing it.
It's one person ruining it for 50 to 100 others. Instead of, just play, you play along with it. You don't have to win. And this person, if I remember right, they were actually kind of like that all the time. They always had to win.
Well,
They
yes,
always had
they
to
were
be the center
always.
of attention too. So that was, and people know that going in, and they should have on both sides been like, nope, sorry, dude. Come together. You didn't do that. If you continue to say you're doing that, you're gonna not really be. You're gonna just be ignored for the rest of the event. And unfortunately, that seems harsh, but it's again quoting Kirk: the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the you.
That's Spock, but yes.
Yeah, Kirk says it too, like once. You're right, it is Spock. I was just trying to cover my track.
Man.
I'm just trying to cover my track. I'm trying to get my track cred back, man.
It's the Space High Elves, man.
Space High Elves. But yeah, so that was the worst example of seeing, because like the rest of it was super fun and a lot of skirmishes and things like that. But that was I think they were trying to get a crystal, or I don't remember what they were trying to recover.
Yeah, there was a crystal.
Some
There was
dumbass
something
thing.
like that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, the crystal of virginity or something. I don't know what it was, but
Virginity, it wasn't around much.
no. Well, I think it actually protected it. It protected the virginity of all of us involved. Because that's the joke. Remember, all role
The
players
had to run in and steal it and wreck it for everybody, right?
That's right. All role players, remember, are fat, pimply, overweight, jobless virgins. That's what we're all supposed to be.
Hey,
So I'm
Shabba,
just
no
going with the
bother.
stereotype, right? That's what we're all supposed to be.
It is.
So go with the stereotypes, Jazz. They're there for a reason.
Okay.
I don't know about you guys, but I freaking look good.
Shut up, pizza face. Nerd. Well, I wear that as a badge of honor now. Let's see. Yeah, like I said, you have to have the story, and a lot of when the story and conflict arise, it often comes from usually like pre-existing rivalries that are already occurring in roleplay. Like if a few guilds are, you know, like friendly, always going at it or something like that, and then someone usually gets a bug in their butt, like, hey, this might make a really cool story if we can get other people involved, and it can balloon and escalate into a large, you know, player-driven event. They typically don't just like come out of nowhere. There's always usually build up. If there isn't, it's probably not the best story, but you still get props for trying. But a lot of them have, a lot of the ones I've seen, they always have pretty realistic or, you know, reasonable conflict. You know, it's not just like, you got my shoes dirty. We are now at war, sir. I mean, it works in LA maybe, but still, that's a totally different world. As Sib was saying too, the celebration ones, they're not nearly as complicated. And often, you know, there's no combat rules. Obviously, you don't have to agree, like, in advance of what needs to be done. Like, okay, if these characters do they roll? Do they freeform? Do they, you know, do we know the outcome in advance and we just kind of play it out? They, you know, and there's often not a lot of misunderstandings. Although I say that and then somebody tries to poison the entire thing because they're idiots.
Yep.
But not that we have that happen, like we've said before, but usually there's no like in a celebration, nobody's sneaking past a barrier to try to steal the crystal of virginity. So you don't really have that.
You need to lay out ground rules. I mean, for whatever kind of event it is, whether it be the, you know, social or the military.
Then get ready for the trolls.
Yeah, you have to have rules. Whatever you want to accomplish and working in such a big scale, you really need to make sure everybody's on board with those rules.
Yeah.
Yeah. It needs to be discussed and laid out and figured out. Yeah.
Excuse me.
It's not something you can do, like, say, I'm going to do this tomorrow. No.
Right. Yeah. And like no pre-planning.
No.
No. Even well, and it's sad is like I said, even the celebrations, you just have to even those have like, all right, nobody brings a weapon, you're not fighting and getting drunk and starting shit. This is supposed to be peaceful. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be, I don't know. I wanted to say campy, but that's not the word I'm looking for.
Well, you're supposed to laugh a little bit at yourself and frolic around, and not take everything. Just to have fun, a little bit of light role play, but don't try to make it into some big overarching role play when you haven't talking. If you haven't spoken to the people that organized it. Oh, shut up.
Oh, she went British there with that one. Oh,
she went British. I heard it.
Oh, shut up, you.
I've watched too much BBC television.
You go a little pulp on the Gandhi there. You little gamey. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like even you have to, even those, I mean, it's basic rules, not as detailed as like combat stuff, but like, don't poison the food without permission. No bringing, if you come to this and you have a rival there, you leave your rivalry at the door. You know, that kind of stuff, so that everybody can have a good time without watching people chest up and, you know, measure their dick size against somebody else. All that bullshit that usually goes on with some stuff and some between usually the same kind of people over and over again.
Yep.
But and of course, you know, the size and scope of it will often change how difficult it is. Like some of the celebrations, like a single person, or sometimes a single person, or, you know, or hopefully a single guild can actually organize like a celebration community-wide. You know, they're that much easier to do. You know, everybody can come to it.
Like we used to do in Silver, we started that whole thing where I noticed that raid guilds would have, where they would hand out to newbies, they'd hand out stuff. And so we started doing that Iceli. Do you remember doing those? We had we had everybody in our guild had to make stuff, and then we'd hand it out to newbies in the starting zones.
We would just passing things out. Yeah,
but it was all IC.
Yeah, where we would pass out anywhere from armor to housing items.
Bags, housing
items were super popular, and bags early on before they got to like 748,000 or
Yeah.
something like per bag.
You know, I think at one of our events we had a costume contest, and I actually
Yeah, we did.
gave in-game money.
Yeah,
for
the chrono thing,
Yeah.
which was
The
basically
chronos, yeah, we gave away
Yeah.
chronos.
which
because
was
you could
a
sell
month
those
a month
for
of
us.
yeah, you could
Stupid
sell
amount of
them, or
money.
it was basically a $15 for a subscription for the month. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you could sell it for a couple 100,000.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, or platinum, excuse me. So, yeah, it was worth a lot, and it was a nice gift just to give to people. I really like doing that too.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something you can always do. People really do like, getting things handed out to them, especially the housing items were another popular one because housing and EQ was awesome, or EQ2 was
Yes,
awesome.
I've never seen anything like it. So
No. So when it comes to the conflicts, though, they get far more difficult because you need combat rules, you need guidelines, and as with most conflicts, there's going to have to be.
We had to do that. We had to do that for our giveaways. We had to say this is not an RP event where you get to start a fight.
Yeah.
And we had to do that because the first year that we did it, we had a couple people attack us that were our enemies and, try to start stuff. And we had to say, we're not ICLE here, really. So stop it.
Yeah.
So it happens if you don't have the rules in place, somebody's going to challenge it. The don't shower with a hair dryer on is a thing. And they have to do that because some idiot actually did it. So you have to have those rules in place or someone will.
And even though you have the rules in place, they still will try.
Oh, yes, they will. But at least then you can say that we talked about this, you agreed to this, you don't get to turn around and do
we're
this
just going to ignore you for the rest of this because you're just being a nuisance. Yeah. I personally also like the no using a snowblower on the roof. That's one of my favorites.
There's
and
also
somebody tried, which is sad.
There's also the outside of roleplay trolls that were there to troll the whole event.
Yes, which don't care about the rules, but
we love Gormal, but some of them cousins of his, man.
He's got some shady down south in the bayou, eating live what they catch, cousins. Got some cross-eyed babies down in there. Yeah.
They ain't nice down there, man.
No. This here's my sister wife, and this here's my my sister daughter.
That's the one there is a special sister.
That's the special sister.
Oh,
yes.
Larlene, put your shirt back on.
I'm walking away from this conversation.
Hey, come on over here, baby. You got some real pretty ears. Reminds me of my dog.
Oh my God, you're so wrong.
After the show, I'm going to have me some French fried potatoes. That's right.
Keep the sling blade away from Civies. Keep the sling blade away.
Reckon I aim to kill you with it. It's a fucking messed up show.
Good movie. But
Good movie.
Yeah.
Fucking messed up. So you have to, the biggest, of course, with the conflicts is typically there does have to be a losing side. This isn't you can't, it's kind of disappointing when you can't do the Superman versus the Flash. Who's the fastest man on Earth? Oh, it turns out it's a tie, or something happened in the middle of the race and they had to fight together and we'll never find the true answer. It's bullshit. It's like, oh, that was disappointing. All that build up for nothing. So yeah, and like with the Ashlander War one, I mean, there had to be a losing side, and it clearly has to be the Ashlanders, just because of lore-wise, they don't actually gain on top for another 1,000 years or so, 800, whatever it is. So that one was kind of easy, but when it comes to faction-based stuff, that's something you have to work out ahead of time. You can always keep it under your hat so people don't know, but or you have to. Like, I guess the rule sets would have to be like, so, like if, do the skirmishes, like 2 out of 3 wins or 3 out of 5, whoever wins, 3 out of the 5 combat melees, maybe they're the one that comes out on top, but it has to be set in advance to figure out how that's going to go.
If you're going to roll, you have to roll in advance. I remember one time we were asked to join in one of the big role plays for all of them, but they wanted us to lose.
From the get-go.
From the get-go. And I was like, wait. Why would we be losing? Well, you're the bad guys.
Yeah, which that's not how it works.
That's not quite fair. Now, I'm willing to roll dice right now and decide who wins.
Yeah.
But you don't get to tell me up front that there's no way that a pack full of monsters is going to just
because they're the bad guys.
Right.
I will say when it works well, like the whole dice rolling for the event, and no one knows what's going to happen, that makes it really exciting.
I do think that, and that was the thing they ended up deciding after we had stepped out, another guild stepped in and said that we had a point. And what they ended up doing for that event was the leaders all rolled, but they never told anybody else.
Oh, yeah, and so it makes it fun.
So everyone else had fun because nobody knew who was going to win.
Because only like 3 or 4 people knew. Well, yeah,
and they did apologize to me later. They apologized to me for what happened, that it was mishandled, and I felt that
was reasonable.
I felt reasonable, and then they asked us to be included in the aftermath, which I thought would make a lot more sense for Silver Circle anyway, because Vodka doesn't like to pick sides. She's neutral.
Yeah.
But she would definitely quietly help both sides and make money. So she would totally do that. So that's exactly what we did. And it was fun, and it actually ended up being some pretty good role play for us as a guild.
Yeah.
But initially it was sticky. And I think
I remember that. You were like, these
Yeah.
people just came to us and said they want us to do an event where we just lose outright from the get-go. It's like, well, that doesn't sound like any fun.
Yeah, why would we do that?
Yeah.
But in the end, it turned out well, and I was pleased that it still ended up generating role play, and that the other guild that normally doesn't even like us stepped in and was like, no, I'm gonna have to agree with her on this one. That's hokey.
Yeah.
So I was pleased because we weren't normally friends, and they sided with us.
Yeah, let me and since Kishmish, he said he probably wasn't going to be here today because he's going to be pulling he's going to be pulling a long shift at the whale stabbing that he's doing. So he actually did at least leave us a quick paragraph. So here's my input on the topic. Grand scale event RP is hit or miss with me. There's no middle ground for it, which I kind of agree with. It's either awesome or it's horrible. It'll either be a great win or a colossal failure. It can be harder to maintain proper communication than all other forms of event planning, as well as being easy to miscommunicate with fellow DM leads or other positions granted to those involved. I personally have not been on any of that grand scale events, and I tread with heavy caution on such. Ashlanders must die. Praise be the 3. I'm 22.
Wow.
So that's from Kishmas.
That's our Kishmas.
He is 22 now.
He is 22. Yes. He's
just saying.
He's old enough to drink in most states.
In all states, isn't it? I don't think there's any.
I think Utah, it's now 35 is the minimum age.
No, it's not.
That's the facts I'm putting out there. You saying it's fake news, Jazz? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
We don't have fake news here.
Yeah. Okay.
Yunfei actually, she says, I won't name drop, but one of the first guilds I was in EQ2 had a rivalry with a popular guild from the opposing city. At first, the events were fun and seemed to work out, and then everyone started to get butthurt, and it was like high school again. Eventually, we were just banned from RPing with anyone from the opposing guild, which of course we ignored because you're not my mom.
I like that.
Yep.
Yeah, and they are right. You can't. Guild leaders out there, you can't ban your players from playing with other people. That's just stupid, and you don't have that kind of power.
No. Yeah. You can say, do not involve us in group guild
you
RP
can ban your guild.
That's fine.
But not the players. Like
right,
the guild
and
as a
that's
whole.
what we did, is we were like, okay, I would prefer that you did not try to pull the guild in
If you get kidnapped, you're on your own, Sparkles.
Yeah, but as you know, I know that I still role-played with a lot of the guilds that we were like, but I still role-played with a lot of them because it wasn't a group problem. It was...
Not without the magic word.
That's right. Sorry, the way you did that, it was totally Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
The computer screen when
was it?
When Newman
It was.
Yeah,
It so
totally
was,
locked him
Jess.
out of the computer. His little thing came up. It's like,
It's so sad that we all our brains.
All three of us were like,
no, I bet
Jurassic
we're
Park.
not the only ones. I bet there's people
Oh,
in the
yeah.
channel that were going, oh yeah, I see that.
Newman, that's right. Sorry,
Dennis
guys.
Nedry. Ruined it for
That's
everybody.
right. Man, that didn't work out well for him. So let's see here. Yeah, with the conflicts and all that stuff. Yeah, and the rule sets, you have to have them. They'll probably change. Obviously, you're going to change story to story, game to game. Mechanics, of course, in the guild, or not guild, but the game might come into play with this. It seems most of it there. How do you? A lot of them roll on the combat itself, but I've also seen some where like the individual skirmishes between people will go on, but like the skirmish itself is only so long.
We tried a lot of different things.
That's what I said. I seem to remember a lot of them.
Yeah, we did. And sometimes that worked really well. Sometimes it worked better to let people kind of decide for themselves, one-on-one, and then just let us know.
Yeah.
But a lot of times that's not, what worked.
Yeah. I was reading something Alexi said about what you fans said. That doesn't surprise me, considering I know who the guild has a if you RP with these people, you get kicked policy. By the way, that's a terrible guild policy.
That is a horrible policy.
Yeah. Or, okay, we don't interrupt an event to take everything OOC, but sometimes we are to blame. Okay, yeah. That's the other problem. A lot of with these things is if it goes OOC too fast or too far, the whole damn thing just derails. Man,
it's an epic button reward.
And it's also, when that happens, that's the leadership losing control of the situation.
Which is the next point, holding control. Yeah, because if you have the rule set and you can't, I get it. We all have people that we like. We all have our favorites. Our friends in roleplay aren't our children. We're allowed to have favorites. We're allowed to have people we like more than others. Like I like Sibh'Bae way more than I like playing with Sib. I mean, it's just way.
It's okay. I like playing with Sibh'Bae.
Yeah, I know you like you role play more with him than you do with me. So he was. I knew him first.
He also hated me first, but yeah.
So
I always loved you as a brother, but I hated you as a villain.
So
no you. But yeah, if you got to hold on to the control. If you've got the rule set, and you're especially in the combat stuff, you have to follow the rules. You can't play favorites. You can't, like, I get it, you like this person, but if they're actually your friend and they're stepping out of line, they'll come to understand, like, oh shit, yeah, okay, sorry, I can't play favorites here. I'm a DM in this. You invisibled through the line and stole the crystal of virginity, and we can't have you doing that, which is exactly what should have happened in that situation. But they got the crystal of virginity and all became pure again, and they were like, we're pure, and they went along with it, which was bad. That was the people on the other side not holding on to control and being even. You got to be even-handed in this shit.
Pure for all 5 minutes, Ashton. Let's be real.
That's why you need to...
Best. What do you do with the other 4 minutes and 30 seconds? I'm just asking for myself. I just don't know what you do that long.
No, and holding control also, I will say, would consist of having people DMing this event with you that you trust and know.
Yes.
And because if you guys can't get along DMing, there's no way the event is going to get along.
Yeah, you have to have people on the same page of all the guilds.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, cool, we're all going to do this. And if there's any deviation, we'll agree on this.
Absolutely necessary. You have and the people who are like, well, I think we should do it this way. If you don't deal with it before the event,
yes,
it's a nightmare during.
So here's something too that would probably help. I was just thinking of this as I was looking at Discord. previously a lot of these things, they were all set up either on, crappy Ventrilo servers and voice chats or actual forum posts and things like that. Maybe occasionally also it would be done in like, a group chat inside the game itself. But with the advent of Discord now, where people that aren't even actually in the game or able to be in the game can actually kind of help participate in putting these things together. I wonder now if it would actually be a little easier to put some of this stuff together, because you could have...
I would think so.
The almost constant, forums, they're slow, they were clunky, people didn't always check them. If you're part of an event, by the way, check the fucking forums or Discord. But I wonder now if with Discord, because you could have, if there's a conflict come up, you could all be in the Discord chat, either both talking and typing while you're doing the thing. I would imagine that has to make it at least a little bit easier. Like, hey, we've got a problem over here, and that way too, if there's an OOC argument, you don't have to clutter up the text of the game. You can actually do that there. I think, am I off base on that one? It seems like that might actually help make some of that stuff a little easier.
It would, in some ways it would make it easier, but it's also created another problem, which is over talking. Because we can physically talk, people tend to talk during and before, during, and after, and chew on that gristle until there's nothing left, particularly if they're unhappy.
True.
And so in some ways it's made it easier. I think for me, voice has allowed me to deal with problems faster, because obviously most people don't type as fast as I do. So having somebody get in voice, it's not a brag. It's true. I type really fast, which is a problem because most people don't. So I get bored and annoyed.
She's also a CrossFit vegan.
I am not.
You got to have that proper disrespect for each other and communication. Like, I mean, just be a decent human being. You could probably pull off one of these things really well if you have pretty good communication, if you all agree on what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And you're all even-minded, yeah.
Yeah.
And on Jazz's point with the Discord, don't have a separate channel. Just one for DMs
for
only.
only the
don't
runners
get
of
in.
it.
Yeah, don't let other people in, because sometimes the chat can get off course and it can make it hard for the people DMing the event to actually be able to pay attention.
Yeah.
So I would suggest make your own separate channel just for the people who are the DMs.
And that's just a good rule of thumb, just on even
Any
small
event.
scale. Yeah, even inter-guild one. Yeah, I know there was something that was going on, and it was they were gonna plan it all out just in chat, but they did an open chat, and then everybody's like, oh, there's people in there, so they all joined in, and then it became a clusterfuck, and it made the role play suffer, which, and that's the great thing, like I said, with Discord, is you can, if you don't have a chat, you can actually create one between the people, and you guys can all get together. So that's
I do
a cool
think
thing
that
about that.
if you have a big thing and then just putting the leaders, nobody else, just the people that are running it, into a chat together so that they can keep the communication going while it's ongoing is absolutely helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So yeah, if you got, like I said, we were saying, hold the control. Now, and with most role play, like clearly having tight control on things is actually like the opposite of what we preach in almost every way, shape, and form on the show. I mean, we're always saying, like, hey, let things go where they might. But with something with dozens to 100 or plus players, you actually have to have that iron grip of control, because otherwise it can go completely off the rails and off on a tangent. So the people running the event, each guild leader, if it's, because in really this falls on the guild leaders and maybe their officers that are participating and helping run it. Because let's be honest, a lot of times when these things happen, the guild leaders are the ones setting it up for all their guildies, all for the people underneath them. And they sacrifice their time, their energy, and everything like that so that everybody else in their guild can have this awesome, epic, story to tell years down the line, like people have with the Ashlander Wars, like we know with the Tale Between the Two, not Tale Between Two Cities.
That was funny.
War Between the Two Cities, things like that. And of course they get that, they get that satisfaction out of having created something really cool and long lasting and memorable. But
if you wreck it, you've just wrecked a whole bunch of people's planning,
right,
time and effort.
Yeah, and that's why you have, like you were saying, Strafe, you have to have those. Your guild leaders have to be all on the, they have to be in lockstep, right down the middle of the street.
Yeah, all comrade. Come and done.
It's one of the few times being in lockstep is probably a good thing in roleplay, especially when it comes to people DMing it. But it is kind of like it takes a village. If all the people from many guilds and many people from one guild aren't running it all together, it ends up being just a clusterfuck. So it has to be an entire group effort, because when you have dozens to 100 people, one person, it's impossible. You can't do that as one person. One person can for one read all of that stuff, and then two, respond to all of it. Like I do a lot of single guild events, and there's like the gargoyle one. There were 10 to 12 people at that thing, and I'm just one guy. So you got to be slow, but if you've got dozens of people, it's frankly impossible. No matter how fast Jazz can type, it is impossible.
I couldn't. We've had some pretty big guild events, and I couldn't keep up. I had to have other people helping me, and I type stupidly fast. So. But
you could still there's a limit to how fast you can read and how fast you can type,
and
there is a shit ton more of them than you.
Yes, there's so many more people, and you're having to not only read and type fast, but you have to organize your thoughts too. Mm-hmm. And it just gets to be a cacophony. It's just too much for anybody. Chaos.
A cacophony? Did you say cacophony?
A cacophony, man.
You were giving me shit about words earlier. It's cacophony.
Sorry.
Cacophony.
Hey, man, I love the words on the show. We create stuff from nowhere.
Cacophony.
Cacophony.
Memo. Vocab.
For those of you that are white knighting right now and thinking I'm picking on Jazz, she grammar Nazis me so hard sometimes. She has to tell me when it happens.
I do.
Even
Anytime
when it's
I
a mistype,
mistake,
she knows. She's like, I know you mistyped that, but
I will slip a tell to him with a little asterisk and tell him how to spell it right, just because I'm a witch.
Did you just say it was an asterisk?
Yes.
It's an asterisk.
Not. Some places pronounce it the other way. You need to be quiet.
Yeah, some people pronounce
asterisk and cacophony, man.
Yeah, she's clearly from the north. I believe that all things should have an asterisk in their cacophony.
You're such an ass. I swear to God.
That happened really abruptly, didn't it, Sib?
It did, very abruptly.
That's our daughter who said that the B in abruptly was silent.
Oh, gosh.
That was when she was like
She was younger, but nobody had corrected her until Sib had heard her say it. That's what was said. She's like, I've been saying that at school for years.
Now you burned her on a live show.
Yeah, I've said stuff because I'm a reader and I've read all my life, but I don't necessarily know, the way it's actually pronounced if I don't hear it myself. So I do make those mistakes.
I know. But if I don't tease you, no one will.
Yes, dear.
So I have to.
Uh-huh.
Everyone else has great respect for everybody. I don't care about anything.
Everybody's fair game when it comes to you.
Especially those I love.
Mm-hmm.
You're all so fucked. Oh, man.
Good to know.
All right, so enough of that asterisk. Let's move on to the rest of the show. Sorry, Jess. I know. Well, you could. That's how you can remember it. It's called an ass tricks.
Uh-huh. So I just have to think of you first.
Right.
That will help.
Yeah. That's how you
know. It's ash and ass and assin.
Assin?
See what you did
I'll
there.
remember that. Yeah.
I see what you did there, Sibbies.
If I had feelings, I'm sure they would feel something right now, but got nothing. I'm not supposed to. I don't know how I'm supposed to react to that. So I'm just gonna move on. So moving. You got to move the story along when you're doing it. You obviously, like we said, you got to have a story. You you have to set you have to know how long it should go on. You can't just have like it can't just be completely open-ended because this shit has there's a shelf life on these things. Probably depends on the number of people you have involved and like the type of story. Like some stories they could go on for like they can have multiple conflicts like back and forth and things like that. But if there's only like one objective or maybe two, you can't turn this into like a CW superhero show where they only had 2 seasons planned and then they tried to drag it out for 8 and then the last 6 are terrible. You know, you can't do that. You got to you got to stick to the for lack of better, you got to stick to that outline.
Yeah.
You know, so like I said, there's got to be a limit. Because after a while too, people will just get bored of it. It's like, oh my God, this again. Now, given that might take some time, but in a lot of these things, you have to remember there's also a lot of downtime because there's only so much. Again, we're all typing, so there tends to be a lot of hurry up and wait involved in these, and it's unfortunately it's just unavoidable. You can't get around that. Typing.
You can ask people to type ahead of time,
right?
But a lot of people don't do that.
Yeah,
so.
And even if they do, they still have to wait on. You know, you still have to then wait for like the response to what you pre-typed. You know, even that you can't pre-type what you know. There's only so much pre-typing you could even do. You know, it does help speed things along once you know what's going on, but you're still going to end up waiting at one point or another for either. I mean, as always happens, hold on, somebody didn't describe something quite properly and people took it 2 or 3 different ways. And it's not even necessarily a conflict, but they have to make sure that everybody's on the same page. That's one thing that happens. I seem to remember that happening quite a bit, you know. Somebody, you know, I can't think of something off the top of my head, but they describe something in such a way that it could be like, you know, it's like, would that have helped if I had put a comma in there? Or, you know, like they say, commas save lives. So without that comma, someone might have died, you know? We don't know. That's why we have to discuss that, and it takes a second for the DMs to figure all this shit out. And commas do save lives. Let's eat, Grandma. Let's eat, Grandma. See? There's a difference. There's a, you know, let's see, and no one can often do every part. As we said, you have to separate out the different officers or DMs of this to do separate groups. I think one of the best examples of this, and this was is as far as I know, it's still a weekly thing in Final Fantasy 14. They did that combat event, the Grindstone. Yeah,
you're welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad you remembered. But it's just a massive tournament. And when we were playing Final Fantasy 14, like they could have anywhere from 60 to 80 people in this thing. You know, I mean, it was huge in scale, and it was all done based on roles and things like that. But they would break people off into 4 sectors, you know, divide, you know, 12 here, 12 here, 12 here, whatever it took, you know, 2 on 2. And they would slowly go up the tree from there, you know, and, you know, like the final one from these 2 over here would start to fight the other 2, you know, but they had DMs and people following. They had one guy at the top, and then they had one in each section, and then they usually had somebody helping those people just to make sure everything kept flowing and kept going. But it was very well coordinated. I mean, they'd done this thing for years. I mean, they had it down to a science. There was almost the only waiting there ever was in this thing was just waiting for the combat, because, you know, as inevitably happens with 1 or 2 fights, one person would block the other, and then that person the other person would block that one, and they just block back and forth for, like, you know, 5 turns, and nobody striking 2 out of the 3 hits, which is all that was required. But that's what happens when you do rolls, and you can't get away from that sometimes. But they did a great job of it.
You have to talk to people about it, really.
Right? Yeah, and the way they did theirs was a attack roll and a block roll. So if you attacked higher than the block, you got the hit. If you blocked higher than the attack, you got the block, and that could go that could go back and forth for quite some time, as opposed to the highest roll gets the attack, each time.
Which I prefer.
3 or 4 turns in a row, or you do, for something like that, I tend to do 3 out of 5 instead of 2 out of 3, just because it makes it a little more exciting to have a couple extra hits in there. But that's how they did their thing, which is perfectly fine, because they actually had the coordination down. Something like that with 70 people should take, forever, but they could usually get it done in 2 to 3 hours, which is still a long event, but that was also only if you, like I got to the final fight once. I actually made it all the way to the end and ended up losing to a potato with a spell book because it was melee only. She doesn't cast any spells. She just literally beat my ninja to death with her spell book. Not to death.
That's funny.
Yeah, she was, and when I say she was not Taru, Lalafell, which they call potatoes there. But yeah, that little potato beat the crap out of my ninja with a book. And I mean, it was all, I wasn't, upset about it. I thought it was hysterical. She was awesome. I think her name was Zazu or something like that. I still remember, but she was fucking hilarious, because she just came at him like a fucking 3 feet of rage with this massive, like, Old Testament, like, 1200 AD Bible, just beating the shit out of them left and right, because I just couldn't get the rolls, and it was hysterical. But like stuff like that, you've got to know how to keep everybody together in a cohesive manner, and how long it is you want this shit to go on. I mean, of course, like I was saying with that story too, if you lose, don't throw a fit. It's somebody has to lose these things. There's always a loser.
Are we still on 12?
Yeah, we're still on 12.
Well, I wanted to throw a point in. I was reading through it and I didn't see it on there. You may have it in there, but on moving stuff along, you're gonna have people that can't make it, and you're gonna have to make decisions. Is it in there?
I think I thought of it, but I don't think I actually put it down. So no, I'm saying you had a good point.
You can't appease everybody. Not everybody will be able to make it. Real life schedules will not allow it. So if you do one of these events, you're just going to have to set the schedule.
Set it for the time that most people are available. And unfortunately, some people just can't make that. And they're going to get upset, and they're going to get butthurt. But you're just going to have to keep on going with it, because you cannot appease everybody. Mm-hmm. Not everybody's schedules are ever going to match up. I mean, just like... Isn't that right, Kishmas?
That's right.
That's right. And me and Tervis, we get limited role play time because he's in Australia, I'm in America. So it's just, we don't, you cannot make everybody's schedule fit. So don't try.
No.
You'll just make yourself insane. Yeah.
Good rule of thumb is if you practice small in guild big events and you get them down pat and you have friends to help you with it, I think you can move on to these bigger deals.
That's a good point too.
Yeah, that's what we did. I think that's why we were so much better at it in many ways, is because we practiced on little events all the time.
Yeah, the last one I did in EQ2, it's like you said, someone's got to lose, somebody's going to win. I knew because I was DMing the event that I was not going to win. I could just choose who I wanted to fail to, and I chose to fail to Natty Flies. She was up on the parapets with a bow, and everybody was failing, and Spider-Man had spidered out and had gone mad. And she was up there with a bow. She put one precise arrow right into his dome, fight over.
Yeah, and that's
a tune that didn't really get much play, and I thought that'd be cool for her. She's got a story now.
Yeah, and that's, and if you're gonna, you're gonna lose. I like to do that sometimes. Like if I know my character's gonna lose in something, I'll just pick whoever does the most awesome, coolest thing, or it seems like that's a reasonable expectation of loss right there.
Yeah.
Common sense could kind of do that. Like I'm the guy that hits you with a blow dart, or a spit wad in the middle of the forehead, as opposed to the guy that hits you with a lightning bolt. Probably the spit wad's just going to take you out. I mean, it's just that's clearly the only thing that can happen from that. It's called David and Goliath. You have
pretty much. No, it was good. But if you get good at those small events, you can branch to big ones.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't just try your first time out to do some huge mega event.
No.
Get your friends in the other guild. You get your
It
guild
takes
together.
practice. It really does.
Yeah.
Practice with 2 guilds before you do the whole 4-guild multi-madness.
Yeah, and it really, these are, I know it sounds stupid to say that roleplay is a learned skill, but to get to a certain level where you can respond to everything over and over again, there is actually it's
a skill.
It's a skill.
Yeah.
You have to learn it. You
Yeah.
really have to learn and train yourself to multitask, to be able to just to be able to control and keep straight everything that you need to, so that you can tell the story and continue it in a cohesive fashion. And it's a very good point you bring up, Sibh'Bae, with start small. Don't, maybe you do just a small group of your friends, and then move on to your guild. If you're, if you've been watching your guild, like the Servants of the Temple, they do those events in the same manner all the time.
Which I will say, their events, I have been so impressed with their events because they have their system down pat. And for the most part, it is smooth selling. Sometimes it gets a little rough, but for most events, I mean, they have, you have multiple events a night because everything is so smooth with how you have your setup. I was impressed whenever I first joined.
I got to get in there and see how cool it is.
Yeah,
well,
it's
just
you start, and you can start to learn how they do it, and then you're like, oh, okay. After a couple of them, you've kind of got the basics of it. And like, oh, I want to, I've seen people that they've never ran. Actually, I think I want to say Travis. It's the he's the Truth Bob, right? I always get them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Travis is.
I know he's some of his first ones were kind of.
He's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Him and that guy Laz are my favorites.
Yeah, and he had. I actually remember when he had done his first one, and that was because he had seen it over and over and over again and participated. So you start to be like, okay, well, this is how these things work. That seems pretty basic, and then you can just go from there. Like I said, it's a learned thing, and not every guild does it the same exact way. But you can kind of learn the ins and outs of each guild and how they do things, how they operate. Like how you learned that that one guild you were in, that you didn't matter.
Yeah.
You were not allowed
You were
to participate.
worthless.
You were a wallflower. You were just there for beauty.
Yes, and finding that out is absolutely important.
Right. So moving this along here, dealing with god modders. That one, it is, like I said, the Crystal of Virginity. It needs to be, god modding is just, in these large scale things, it's just going to happen. Or it's going to attempt to happen. Someone's going to overstep their bounds, or they're not going to get it, or they're, and it's not, I don't mean a simple like, you forgot to use attempt in there. Well, it's implied, sometimes it's just, implied that that's the attempt is in there when you're just trying to write it out in a neat way. But that stuff has to be done on a case-by-case basis, and but in the large-scale stuff, it's just going to happen, and you have to squash it, and you have to have that's where it comes really important that all your DMs and people running it are all on the same page and can all agree, and that's where you have to kind of put your friendships aside and be able to be like, listen, sorry, but three of the four of us voted that you were god modding that, so we're going to have to retcon what you just did. Sorry. It's just going to have to happen, and they can get upset and all angry, but they can also just leave the event. It's
those are the kind of guys and gals that turn the butthurt into the epic butthurt.
Which goes back to, you cannot please everybody all the time.
Nope,
and don't try,
or you will go crazy.
Yeah, you're just gonna end up beating your head against there. I think lastly, or nearly lastly, for those running the event and participating in the event, you need to be cordial, be kind. Remember that everybody involved is the same fucking kind of nerd you are, sitting at a computer just there to have a good time. Be patient, and like I said, remember everyone is there, and we're all there to have fun. We do this for fun.
Can you spell that out for me?
Fune, fun.
Nice. The E is silent, right?
The E is silent.
Woo!
What's fun, man? What is this
Fune.
fun you speak of?
But yeah, I mean, just be patient, be kind, understand that, everybody that role plays, this isn't, there's no such thing as far as I know in online MMOs as a professional role player.
No, we're all learning.
Exactly. I mean, we're doing this show, not because we're professionals, but because we were just dumb enough to sit in front of a microphone and talk about this nerdy shit all day for 2 hours every week.
All day.
Yeah.
All day.
Well, we think about it all day. I mean, there's a
That's
lot more.
true.
There's a lot more show prep in this than you might think of. Believe it or not. Contrary to what it says, I mean, to get that solid 15 minutes for this 2-hour show, it takes me hours of thinking of it every now and again.
Yeah, just try writing one of our outlines, boy. You'll be there a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not as much fun as you might think.
Speaking
I know.
of us goofs sitting in front of microphones, special thanks to Yunfi for those epic portraits.
yeah.
man.
Yes,
I love it.
I wanted to say something about that.
I was gonna hit that
Yeah.
at the end, but we'll go ahead and.
Sorry, I
no,
ruined
you're
it.
all right.
No, you.
Yeah, let's see here.
Way to go, Strafe.
Yeah, I'm here
I
to
will
troll.
say,
I'll be here all day.
I kept
That's the
thinking
deal.
about it because I've seen them go through the random
Oops,
slide
wrong one.
on the Twitch TV or Twitchcast.
Yeah,
There's actually the pictures are in there.
Yeah,
of
I
Christmas
had-
and Stray.
I had put them
And-
in
yeah.
there.
I saw one roll through and I was like, we need to say something about those.
Oh,
Thank
there's
you,
Strafe's
Stray.
getting them. Yeah. But yeah, we commissioned two portraits for, and I can't do it now that I'm trying to. For Strafe and Kishmis, I didn't have time to actually add them to the actual thing tonight, but I will have that for the podcast so that they will be behind the three of us in our little cartoony form. So special thanks to you and Faye for doing that.
Yes. Unife, you're awesome.
Yes.
We love you.
It's awesome. Give me Marty McFly's headset. I dig it.
Yes. And the microphone that he was singing into too, and on the stage.
Johnny's got to be good, man.
That's right. So like I was saying, it's all about fun. Be patient, be cordial, be nice to each other. It's also a massive event with dozens and dozens of people. Not an event for you to show off as I already had this in here, but Yunfei said it too. You're EPing. It's not here to show how you can go Super Saiyan level 2. Just participate in the fucking event. Just have a good time.
Please,
Just
God.
play your character. You don't need to evolve into a higher form in the middle of it and try to show everybody up.
But Ashen, but I got to show how edgelordy I am in this event, so everyone can know how cool and mysterious I am.
Yeah, you can flip your hair on your own time.
Those beautiful golden locks
Yeah.
on track.
You know
on
what?
track.
You know what? Put the fedora and the duster aside. Just bring a regular sword. Just have fun. And if you roll poorly, just go with the fact that they just did better than you that time.
You just have to wear that egg with pride.
That's right.
One of the things I think that I keep telling people about rolling, because I've had a lot of people tell me that they don't think it's fair that they're this raw person that they play and they're big and powerful and they're 500 years old and, they have all these powers. And then this level 2 guy that's just some mage, he gets to come along and kick my ass. That's not fair. And y'all know this because you've heard me say it 1,000 times, but humor me because they haven't, that anyone, if you're in a fight, like physical fight with someone, you can be a martial art raw guy, and this guy with a little tiny penknife can kill you
Yeah.
if he gets a lucky hit.
I referenced the Joker in that episode. That random gangster supposedly killed the Batman in the animated series.
Yeah.
Great episode.
Yeah.
Check it
I
out.
mean, and that is so important to it's also, I really, 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 really want people that do big events and people who do fighting things.
Yeah.
Please, for the love of God, watch some MMA, watch some fighting things.
Just watch some anime and stuff like that. Just get
Not even
creative.
anime, because,
Yeah,
anime
but I
goes
mean-
on and on and on and on.
Right,
and on
but
and
I
on,
mean,
like
just
for 3 things.
okay, like the good ones, where
Right,
they do
but I
really
mean,
neat fights. But
When you watch like them MMA and you watch boxing and you watch these things, look at how much time is actually going by.
oh, very little,
How many
yeah.
times they stop, how long these fights are actually going. Take a lesson in how battle works so that you understand that most fights last tops 10 minutes.
You know, and we are in a fantasy world. That's why I say anime, because, like I said, when you're like that one thing where like attack defense roles where you're just constantly each one's defending each other, that can actually, I mean, it can be drag on a little bit, but if you're actually role playing it well, you can actually make that even constant defenses into interesting combat, because if you've, like I said, if you've watched anime, they can go blow, you know, it's like watching two Jedi fight, for example. They, you know, it's sword clash after sword clash, you know, they attack, they block, they parry. You can make that actually interesting, or you could just make it boring. You know, it's the difference between like the new Jedi fights compared to the original trilogy, where it was just basic like, you know, they were aiming for swords in the air, not aiming for the body of the other person, as opposed to the new fights, which has all the twirling and all that stuff.
Empire had a pretty good fight in it. So
I was talking more about A New Hope. Between Vader and Obi-Wan, it was literally just two old farts just banging sticks together.
You know, I look at it now as Vader's kind of dubious of what Obi-Wan can do in his old age, and Obi-Wan's like, I hope he doesn't notice that I'm an old man.
Yeah, he's like, I've been living on a desert watching this stupid kid for years. I'm not really all that. I'm alone. I'm very lonely. I've got barrels of KY jelly. I've a lot of time on my hands.
A good anime to watch for fighting stuff, and which I pulled a lot from Ren. It was a Berserk. It's short, but it's a lot of bloody fighting. It's
Berserk.
medieval fighting too.
Yeah, brutal.
It's brutal, bloody, but it's short and it's to the point.
Mm-hmm.
It's good
It'll
reference.
get you where you go.
I wanted to make a comment on what Jazz had said. You know, the dice may not be in your favor, but don't get upset about it. You know, it builds character. You know, your character, whoever you're playing on, gives them something. You know, if you roll bad and somebody beats you with a butter knife, yeah, it may be embarrassing. It may, you know, sting, but
you're going to forget it after a while too.
Yeah. Or it's going to give you a good story, you know, be like, got my butt beat this way, but
like the time
roll with it.
Like the time I got my character beat by a potato with a book.
Yeah.
I got no end of shit from that, from the guild I was in at the time, my in character. Because they were all there watching it, you know, to get to the final, you know, that it was literally the last round. Whoever did that was crowned the champion, and he got his butt beat by a little potato, you know. So they gave him shit from that forever, and it was funny.
And the dice roll, you know, it's the luck of the dice. It's not always going to be in your favor. It's not always going to be in the other person's favor, unless they have loaded dice,
which you can't have in the game, or if it's a dice bot, in which case they fucking hate you.
Yeah, they hate everybody. Let's just be honest. But no, it just, don't get upset. You know, there's going to be your time in the spotlight. You don't have to have that time in the spotlight every time.
Right.
No matter how badass your character is.
But my time in the sun, Sibbies.
I'm sorry.
Shut up, vampire. I'm going to leave you. I'm going to stake you out in the sun.
Oh, I agree on that one.
So we'll go ahead and start closing this down. And lastly, I'm going to say this. If someone doesn't like how it goes, they're welcome to try and run their own massive scale event too. So put your story and time where your mouth is.
Yeah.
Say tough titties.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you think you can do better, talk is cheap. Prove it.
It is not something that's easily done.
No, it's not. And it's
coming from 4 people that have all done it. Well, I've only done the social ones, not the actual fighting ones.
Yeah.
But it is not easy.
Yeah, and I've done some
extremely
pretty large scale stuff, but it takes a lot of patience, and there's always going to be mistakes. You're always going to miss something when you're doing them. It's just going to happen. We're all flawed. We're all reading. We're all typing. Stuff goes, especially on those big ones.
I'm not flawed. What are you talking about?
No comment. So,
but if you have people who you trust to run the thing with, it can be really rewarding, and it can go smoothly, even with the hiccups.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's always going to be hiccups. It just your attitude will depend on if that hiccup turns into a burp, you know, or full-on mouth vomit. You know.
Oh, thanks.
Oh,
That's
Lord.
a lovely image. Thank you.
What? Just saying, it escalates.
Well, I was hungry.
Hot pocket. That's how the show. That's how this show ends. That's just
bro,
Jim
bro,
Gaffigan.
no. You went to the dark side so quick on that one.
So, all right. Well, that's pretty much it. Like I said, if you think you can do it, man, go for it. And if you're one of those people that just complains about the entire thing all throughout, one, stop participating. Nobody's making you be there. And two, prove that you can do it better. There's nothing wrong with that. Take on the challenge. I will say most people that complain about that stuff will never do it. They'll talk the big talk, but they won't actually do anything because it's intimidating and it does take a lot of work. So
be busy being edgelords trying to get the ladies, bro. That's what's up.
That's right. So yeah. But if you've ever got an idea for stuff like that, always throw it out to your guild leaders. If you're a guild leader, throw it out to other guilds. They are memorable. They are something, and they can definitely be worth doing. You really have to be patient, and you have to have the right attitude for it. And if you don't have that, or you've got a really crappy community that you happen to be role playing in, maybe just maybe just avoid it, because sometimes it really cannot be worth your time and effort if you're around a bunch of negative Nellies. You guys are a bunch of negative Nellies. That's what you are.
If you throw an idea out like that and your guild is not supportive, you might not be in the right guild for you. Because most guilds are going to support. If you want to do an event, I've never seen a guild that's been like, oh no, I don't like that idea. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, all unless it's completely ridiculous, but within reason.
Yeah, within reason. But usually most guilds are, if somebody wants to do an event, they're usually very supportive.
Where Doctor Who comes in the TARDIS and he tells us about alternate timelines. And then, Gormammu, I want to make a deal.
Oh, Lord.
What?
Bro, you remind me of that fat kid I found at Scarborough Fair who came up to me in my Legolas get-up, and he's like, hey, I bet you'll never guess what I am. He was a fat kid in a kilt and a Scottish shirt, and I said, I have no idea, so I was pretty 4 sheets in the wind. He said, I'm a Scottish vampire, and that day is the day Purple Wookiees existed, and I was like, oh, God, help me now.
I'm a Scottish vampire, and I like Twinkies.
A lot.
It wasn't even an accent. It was just, I bet you'll never guess what I am. I'm like, oh, Lord, I'm afraid you're going to tell me, too.
Riding the short bus to and from school? Sorry. That was rude. It's not fair to people on a short bus. Because even they'd be like, dude, that guy's nerdy. So, all right. Well, anybody have any final thoughts? Final thoughts?
Have another one, Ashton. Have another one.
I only had. It's actually pretty good. It's called Sibh'Bae Hard Apple Ciders.
Sibh'Bae.
It's golden apple. I like golden apples. They're delicious, and especially in alcohol form. So, all right. Well, I guess that's that. Go ahead, kick the music on here. I do appreciate everybody who tuned in live over at twitch.tv/RPMMORadio. You can catch us, like I said, every Saturday, 7 Central. We will be here every week. I have no idea what we're going to do next week because we're
gonna talk about
just kind of playing it by ear at this point. If you guys got suggestions, throw it out in the Discord. Send us
bye, everybody.
Email. RPMMORadio.com or RPMMORadio@gmail.com. That's the
We may or may not accept smoke signals. You guys have a good night.
That is true. But only hemp smoke. Only hemp smoke. So visit us over at Facebook, facebook.com/RPMMORadio. Join us, RPMMORadio.com/Discord, as well as over at, what's that thing called? Twitter, Instagram. You can follow us there. We put up stuff all the time, chatter back and forth. And appreciate everybody tuning in. Of course, you can join us next time when we talk about halflings and their brand new tiny action figure line. Not really. Next time on RPMMO Radio. Good night, everybody. The thoughts and opinions of those on RPMMO Radio are just that and should not be taken as the gospel truth. but pretty close to it. Music, as always, is provided by Husky by the Geek. Visit him at youtube.com/HuskyByTheGeek to hear all his great rock covers of video game music and original sounds.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
He's a dead man. How's it going, folks?
Nice knowing you.
What's that knock at the door? What'd you do?
You guys are hilarious.
Silence.
That's like the action after too many shots.
Oh, good.
Can they hear us? No.
Oh, weird. Are you muted again?
Is your mic on? Uh-oh.
I hate it when that
Well,
happens. Nice knowing you.
Nothing. There we go. Oh, look at that. Hey, there it is.
Oh,
okay,
wow.
so,
should you go back over the intro?
yeah, I guess we're going to have to because all they heard was you guys. So, yeah, no. Apparently, the OBS thing had switched my default mic to default, which apparently is code for computer in nothing. So, all right.
Perfect opportunity
You know
to
what?
write down the intro.
All right, so hold on. Jedi mind tricks. You remember nothing. All right, so we'll start the show again. This time with the music and a host that actually can be heard, unlike the rest of you. And then you know what? We might have to put this at the end of the podcast just so people can hear it. So, all right, starting again in 3, 2, 1.